We're subsidizing Canada to the tune of over $100 billion a year. We're subsidizing Mexico for almost $300 billion. We shouldn't be subsidizing. Why are we subsidizing these countries? If we're going to subsidize them, let them become a state.
Every single conservative would tell every single American that a tariff on Canada is a bad idea.
Pierre Poilievre, leader of Canada's Conservative Party, is no stranger to the world of high-stakes political drama. Known for his sharp rhetoric and unwavering commitment to Canadian sovereignty, Poilievre recently found himself responding to a bold statement from former U.S. President Donald Trump. In an interview that raised eyebrows across the continent, Trump suggested that Canada could become the 51st state of the United States. Trump's comments were not only controversial.
Trump joked to him that if Canada can't survive without ripping off the U.S. to the tune of $100 billion a year, then maybe Canada should become the 51st state.
But they also ignited a firestorm of reactions from politicians, pundits, and the public in both countries. Among the most significant responses was from Poilievre, who wasted no time in addressing Trump's remarks and reaffirming his stance on Canada's independence. Before we get into the details, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an update. The comments from Trump came during a rally in the United States, where he was discussing the future of North America and the relationship between the U.S. and its neighbors. If things don't improve in Canada, I wouldn't be surprised if the people there ask us to take them in as the 51st state, Trump said, adding that the United States could offer Canada the help it needs. The remarks were framed as a criticism of Canada's current government under Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, with Trump suggesting that Canada was heading down a dangerous path of socialist policies and economic stagnation. The idea of Canada becoming part of the United States has been floated before in various forms, often as a tongue-in-cheek comment or a hypothetical scenario. However, Trump's statement was more than just idle chatter. It was a pointed attack on the Canadian political system and an expression of frustration with what he perceived as Canada's drift toward left-wing policies. For Trump, the notion of bringing Canada into the fold of the U.S. was a way to underline his belief that America is the best country in the world and that other nations should align with its values. His remarks were not just about Canada. They were a declaration of his belief in American exceptionalism and the superiority of U.S. governance. Poilievre, a prominent figure in Canadian politics and a staunch defender of Canadian sovereignty, quickly took to social media and the press to respond. His reaction was measured, but it left little doubt about where he stood on the matter. Canada is a proud, independent nation, and we will never become the 51st state of any country, Poilievre declared in a statement issued shortly after Trump's remarks.
Single conservative would tell every single American that a tariff on Canada is a bad idea.
We value our sovereignty, our freedoms, and our unique identity. The suggestion that Canada should somehow become part of the United States is an insult to every Canadian who cherishes the liberty and independence we have fought so hard to protect. Poilievre's response struck at the heart of the issue: the preservation of Canada's independence. For many Canadians, the idea of becoming part of the United States is not just a political question, but a deeply emotional one. Canada has long prided itself on being distinct from its southern neighbor, with a different political culture, a unique national identity, and a history that has been shaped by both its indigenous peoples and its colonial past. The idea of merging with the U.S., even hypothetically, taps into fears of losing that identity and becoming just another state in a much larger union. Moreover, this debate touches on one of the most fundamental questions about what it means to be Canadian. Throughout its history, Canada has navigated complex relationships with its European colonial past, its diverse multicultural makeup, and its powerful neighbor to the south. From Confederation in 1867 to the patriation of the Constitution in 1982, Canada has built a distinct identity based on the principles of peace, order, and good government, a social safety net, and a commitment to multiculturalism and bilingualism. For many Canadians, any suggestion that they might become part of the U.S. feels like an erosion of that hard-won independence. The United States, by contrast, has long been characterized by a much different approach to governance and national identity. While Canada has a history of compromise and inclusivity, the The US has been shaped by a more confrontational and individualistic ethos. The very notion of a single nation stretching from coast to coast in Canada to coast in the US would require major shifts in political, economic, and cultural norms on both sides of the border. Poilievre's response was not just about rejecting Trump's rhetoric, but also about defending the Canadian way of life. Canada's future will not be determined by a foreign leader, Poilievre said. It will be determined by Canadians. This statement was not only a direct rebuttal of Trump's comments, but also a clear declaration of where Poilievre stood in relation to the broader debate about Canada's place in the world. In Poilievre's eyes, Canada's future must be forged on its own terms, not based on the whims of foreign powers, no matter how influential they may be. Poilievre's comments also provided an opportunity for him to criticize the current Liberal government of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. While Trudeau's government has been vocal about strengthening ties with the United States, Poilievre and many conservatives believe that Canada's relationship with its southern neighbor has become too one-sided and vulnerable. They argue that Trudeau's progressive policies, ranging from climate action to social welfare, have positioned Canada as more of a follower of US policies, rather than a confident, independent actor on the world stage. To Poilievre, this was precisely the kind of vulnerability that Trump was exploiting in his remarks. Critics of the Trudeau government often point to instances where Canada has aligned too closely with US policy priorities, whether on issues like trade agreements, foreign policy, or defense. Poilievre's remarks served as a reminder that conservatives believe Canada should prioritize its own national interests first, rather than yielding to American pressures or seeking to mimic US policies. In fact, Poilievre sees Trump's comments as the direct result of Trudeau's perceived weakness on the world stage. By portraying Canada as a nation in crisis, Trump was able to frame the conversation around Canadian policies as insufficient and needing American intervention. Poilievre's defense of Canadian sovereignty was also seen as a rallying cry for many voters who feel that the current government is out of touch with the concerns of ordinary Canadians. The notion of Canada becoming the 51st state.
And Mercedes, today Trump posted quite the image on social media. Tell us about that.
It's very much Donald Trump being Donald Trump, picking up on this furor and questions over the 51st state comment and whether it was a joke or whether it was a joke that was meant to deliver a hard message to make Canada look like we were a little on our back foot after Canadian politicians portrayed the meeting as being very rosy and that he's very serious about those tariffs. But just before we went to air, Donald Trump went on Truth Social, which is his favorite social media, and posted an AI-generated picture of him next to a Canadian flag, which viewers can see here, looking over mountains. That one mountain in the background appears to be the Matterhorn, which is actually between Switzerland and Italy. So is this more trolling? Is this a joke? Is this Donald Trump saying that Canada is beautiful? No one really knows. But one thing is for sure, we're unlikely to escape those tariffs in January when they begin. The Trump administration clearly wants to send a message that they are very serious about this, and the Trudeau government is trying to go along to get along at this point.
All right, Mercedes Stevenson in Ottawa tonight. Thanks, Mercedes.
Symbolized for many the fear of losing control over their own future. It's a sentiment that resonates strongly in regions outside of Canada's largest cities, where many feel that their voices are not being heard in national debates. Poilievre's rhetoric, therefore, was designed not only to defend Canada's independence, but also to galvanize those who may feel left behind by the political establishment. In addition to defending Canadian sovereignty, Poilievre also used this moment to promote his vision for the future of Canada. For him, the path forward for the country does not involve aligning more closely with the United States, but rather strengthening its independence through policies that prioritize national security, fiscal responsibility, and self-reliance. "We must stand strong and chart our own course in the world," Poilievre said. "That is how we will ensure a prosperous and secure future for all Canadians." This vision of Canada as an independent, self-sufficient nation also connects to Poilievre's broader political philosophy. Conservatives, according to Poilievre, believe that a strong economy is the foundation of a strong nation. By reducing taxes, cutting government waste, and creating a climate that encourages entrepreneurship and investment, Poilievre believes Canada can become a global economic powerhouse that is not beholden to any foreign power, whether it's the US or any other country. While Poilievre's response to Trump's comments was largely framed as a defense of Canadian sovereignty, it also had a clear political edge. In the months following Trump's remarks, Poilievre's focus on national pride, fiscal conservatism, and strong borders became a central theme in his political messaging. He sought to present himself as the leader who would protect Canada from external threats and ensure that the country's values and priorities were put first. As the debate over Canada's future continues to unfold, Poilievre's response to Trump's suggestion of Canada becoming the 51st state will likely remain a defining moment in his leadership. His firm stand on Canadian sovereignty will continue to resonate with voters who are concerned about the erosion of national identity and independence. For Poilievre, it is not just about rejecting foreign interference. It is about securing a future for Canada where the country stands proudly on its own, unshaken and unbowed. In the end, the controversy surrounding Trump's remarks serves as a reminder of the complex relationship between Canada and the United States, a relationship that is often shaped by power dynamics, historical legacies, and competing national interests. But for Poilievre, the message is clear. Canada's future will be determined by Canadians, and no foreign leader, no matter how powerful, will dictate that future. As long as he is in charge, Poilievre will fight to ensure that Canada remains the sovereign nation it has always been. Whether or not the idea of Canada becoming the 51st state ever gains any traction, one thing is clear: Poilievre will continue to fight to keep Canada's future in the hands of its own people.